All right, welcome back to Hell with the Podcast. We're here, episode 15, and this podcast is strictly dedicated, for the most part, to the band Striper. And today, though, we're going to be diving into a project that kind of exploded on the scene about 10 years ago with a sound that was big enough to potentially fill any stadium, but what yet was forged by a couple people that you will know well who had already cemented their legacy in the metal world. And that was, of course, we're talking about Michael Sweet, the voice of Striper, and his collaboration with George Lynch, the guitar guy, iconic guitar guy from Dokken, as you may know, and from Lynch Mob as well. And when these two names united, you got an absolute killer supergroup, if that's what you want to call them, whatever it is, from their first track on their 2015 debut, Only to Rise. They proved the fire from the 80s was not just alive, but it was burning hotter than ever. And we're going to dive into that today. So strap in, turn it up, because this is the story of Sweet and Lynch, Only to Rise. And as always, I'm here with my co-host, Daryl. Good morning to you, Daryl.
Good morning, man. This is going to be fun because I have a lot of thoughts. So I had the Bose cans on this morning listening to this record, but the more I got kind of into the weeds with this, I'm like, holy crap, that guy's playing drums, that guy's playing bass. There's a lot to dig into on this. So I'm pretty fired up.
Yeah, there is a lot to dig into on this. And I'll admit, I'll save my thoughts on a couple of things once we get into this. But today, again, we're going to be talking about one of the side projects. Normally, we're talking about Striper, but today we're going to take a break and we're going to talk about Sweet and Lynch. And if you haven't listened to them, again, go listen to them. If you're looking for some good rock, go listen to them. But we're going to get back to Sweet and Lynch in just a minute because I know there are some things that we wanted to talk about today. And the first one I wanted to bring up, or the first one was the one you texted me yesterday about, and I was driving while we were texting back and forth. And yes, I used the voice thing on my thing to record. I wasn't actually picking up my phone. If anybody was concerned, I wasn't picking up my phone, typing in the message to him. I was using the voice command on my cart. But the top 50 rock bands, according to Billboard, whatever.
No,
According
no,
to
this is Rolling Stone.
Okay, was it Rolling Stone?
Yeah, the article was Rolling Stone, and I was mad.
Well, just if you want to take a look and see here's just a screenshot. I
Nice.
couldn't get the top 50, but at least I could get the top 20 here.
Here you go.
And
Yeah,
this is typically the comments that were made. But I see this list and I just go, and I read this on it. Before we get into it, I looked at it and I was like, okay, where are they getting this? Where are they getting this from? And what is it typically based upon? Stuff like that. And it was like, it's based upon record sales, stuff like this. Instead of just looking at a band and saying this band is great or whatever, they're just looking at album sales, which then I go, okay, if you're looking at it from that aspect, then I can understand this chart a little bit more. But record sales doesn't mean they're great.
Right. Well, that's the thing with Rolling Stone. They usually do everything on sales. So, and this is what this list is, I assume, and I'm sorry that I say that, but Rolling Stone is usually how many records did they sell? Oh my, I have so many opinions, but finish your opening statement and then I'll rant.
No, I'm good. I mean, I'm just looking at this list going, I would just not agree with some of these bands on here.
Well,
or where they ended up, and then going in and looking at the top 50, I'm like, really? Yeah,
well, I can get down with the top 5. So, and I do not want to spend a ton of time on this, but
the screen. So the top 5 were the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and Queen, 1 to 5 in that order.
That makes perfect sense to me. But there's some stuff in here that I'm just like, I'm not going to curse. Are you kidding me that Van Halen's at 21?
Yeah, because that was the thing that you and I that I talked about because when I saw them at 21, and this is and I can't remember exactly what I said, but when they came on the scene, with Eddie's guitar playing, not just talking about how it influenced Michael Sweet, because we've already done an episode on that when we did a tribute to Eddie Van Halen, but the number of people he influenced, made an impact on, did all of this stuff, and just transformed the rock industry from one person to be rated. They're rated at 21, and I'm sorry if you like U2, but U2 to be at number 7, who have they really I can't remember one band that said, "Yes, I was influenced by Bono," or "I was influenced by The Edge." And I'm and
Edge.
sorry, I'm not trying to take anything, but I can't recall that. I've never heard it. I don't know it. So for them to be at number 7 versus somebody who transformed the rock industry back in 1978, not one to be at 7, the other one to be at 21, just doesn't make any sense to me on this list.
Well, and if you're looking at the second page of that list, I mean, so U2's at number 7. So above U2, you have Sabbath, you have Nirvana, you have Metallica and AC/DC and Heart and the Beach Boys, which I'm not a that's not my jam, but I also understand their on music in general. God, you got they just mm, again, trying not to curse. They really did just kind of screw the pooch with this thing because they're and I hate Credence and they're at 14 and I don't I don't know, man. I was reading this thing and the more I was looking at it, the more pissed off I got because I was like, man, y'all screwed this up. I mean, the Who is below Nirvana. And I'm not a big Who fan, but I understand the influence. And it's just the whole thing is just, especially when you get to the middle, of this, like I say, I'm down with the top 5. And actually I'm down with the top 6. Fleetwood Mac at number 6. But
I
U2, come on, man. It,
I mean, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about as you're
right?
going through this list. Have you ever known anybody to say these one of these two statements? I just went out and bought the Talking Heads album, or I'm going to see the Talking Heads. I don't in my entire life, I could not name one person who actually had, and again, I'm not taking anything away from them, but I cannot think of anybody who ever said, I'm gonna go buy the new Talking Heads album, or somebody that came up to me and said, "Hey, have you heard the new Talking Heads album? You need to go buy that."
Well, to me, so between Sign of the Times and Stop Making Sense, those are two of the greatest concert films of all time. So Stop Making Sense and David Byrne. David Byrne doesn't really even do anything anymore. And so there's not new Talking Heads music. But I I will agree as not a Talking Heads fan, but that movie is pretty rad. And I would put it up against like any concert film, but I've never been a big Talking Heads fan, but I'm not sure the logic here on a lot of these things. Radiohead is above Van Halen. So as I'm reading this thing, I was the more mad that I got.
Yeah, because it just, and again, it just goes because you think about it, U2, they've sold a
No
ton
doubt.
of records. And
They're hyper successful.
and I look at it this way. If you're gonna name the best bands ever, you gotta talk about not just their record sales, but their influence, their lasting, like, kinda generational, how the music is passed down from generation to generation, and not just look at, I'm sorry, don't just look at U2 for the Joshua Tree and the album after that, that sold those 2 sold pretty well.
No, Joshua Tree. I love Joshua Tree. It's a wonderful album. But I just I would like to see and I feel like it's more on sales and and what you were just saying, it sounds like more of how do we get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? It's like they the categories are like, all right, what's your sales? What's your influence? Who's doing what you used to do? And that kind of stuff. I mean, I I would really like to see the Rolling Stone criteria because you have Metallica at 12. So I know Metallica has sold more records than a lot of people, and they're not in the top 10. So I don't know. It's a funky list, man. I don't know. I was looking at it yesterday and I was just like, Van Halen. I texted you yesterday and I was just like, if you're only gauging this on sales, then okay. But if you're gauging it on anything else, this list sucks because if you're talking about influence and all that other stuff, I'm like, all right, well, your list is garbage. So I don't know. I've never put a lot of stock in anything that Rolling Stone has had in their lists anyway. But when I
Yeah, because and I might just be a little confused because I'm looking at this and I'm on Billboard's website right now because I had this pulled up because I knew we were going to talk about it. But they have the article that says the 50 best rock bands and their staff picks, and it just says our writers pick for whether who regardless of who did it. It just says our writers picks for the very best bands since rock became a permanent part of popular music, and it gives no insight. Let's just
right,
see.
yeah, I couldn't find any of that either. So that was kind
No
of what
insight on yeah, no insight.
right. Yeah, and with Rolling Stone, it's usually sales, but I don't know. But this is, I mean, for them to put this list out in general, it's like yeah, like we were saying earlier, you kind of got to bring some receipts, dude. I mean, yeah, like I say, some of this stuff just like pissed me off because Sly and the Family Stone is above Black Sabbath. I'm like, all right, I guess the U2 thing was kind of like, are you serious? So, I mean,
Yeah.
Bono is a great songwriter, and I I can appreciate because I have some friends that are gigantic U2 fans. So I mean, I get it, I guess, but for them to be above Metallica and Nirvana and Black Sabbath, I'm sorry, and Van Halen, get the fuck out of here, dude.
Yeah.
It's just
Here,
stupid.
I'll tell you my thing about you 2. I actually loved you 2 when I was younger, and I loved the albums more like The Unforgettable Fire or their
The
live
old,
album that they did at the
the
Red
older stuff,
Rocks, the older stuff.
Live at Red
Then
Rocks. That album was great.
then I did like the Joshua Tree, but then after that, they might put out a song, and I just felt like they just went in this weird, different direction after the Joshua Tree. And it's kind of like when we were talking about Against the Law, it was like, I don't recognize this band. That's what I felt like after those first few albums. And so I just kind of lost interest in them because I preferred their very first stuff versus the Achtung Baby and
Yes.
some of the other stuff that they put out in the 90s. In the 90s, it was just a whole different vibe to what I really liked back in the early days from them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, excuse me. Yeah, I saw the Joshua Tree tour and I was like, "All right, cool. Just this is great." But then when they did like the Batman song and all that, it felt, and this is a weird comparison, but it felt like kind of disco on some of their later stuff. I love the Joshua Tree. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. But yeah, it's they just kind of got into a little funky groove, and it's, I guess you can evolve, but it doesn't mean everybody's gonna like it.
Yeah.
But you know whatever. At the point they were doing Joshua Tree, they're already like super famous, so they could do a bunch of. I mean, and the video, God, what is the song with the Batman movie? The video is absolutely ridiculous. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it's, I don't know.
Hold me, thrill me, kiss me,
Yes.
kill me.
Yes. There you go. So they just kind of pivoted, which if you're creative and that's what you want to do, then I guess that's cool. Doesn't mean everybody has to like it, but yeah. I mean, it is what it is. So all
And
right.
so I'm gonna mention this too because there were two, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but we talked about it this week. There were two big major concert announcements over the past week from bands in the 80s that I listened to. You listened to them. And we both said, I know my thought on one band. I know our thoughts line up on one band. It's the other band that I feel kind of the same way after seeing videos and hearing some stuff. But I just could not believe that Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses both announced new tours when we all know their lead singers are struggling mightily based upon what we've seen recently from videos in the past. And I'm like, how in the world could these guys be going back out on tour and they just don't sound good?
Man, I have thoughts. It's my one thought is you don't know what you're gonna get from Axl Rose. Some nights he is
Spot
phenomenal.
on.
Some nights he's spot on. But if we're talking about Motley and you're a freshly minted fan of Extreme, which I love, and Extreme and Tesla going out with Motley. But God, we were talking about the ticket prices the other day. I'm not paying that because I don't really give a about seeing Motley because I think they're gonna sound like crap.
Garbage.
I'm like, at this point, I would like because the because Tommy Lee, solid, John Five, solid, Nikki hasn't played a note on that bass for 20 years, whatever. He's got a flamethrower and all that kind of stupid crap. I would rather I would be more encouraged to buy a ticket if they didn't have Vince Neil, because he's God Almighty, he's just nah. I'm
And
not doing it
talked
anymore.
and we had already talked about it because it did like Extreme back in the day, but you're the one who turned me on to the album Six. And we had already talked. You went to see him last year, and I was like, yes, I want to go see him when they come back through. But the price for what they are to possibly only play 7 or 8 songs, because typically that's what a opener or second opener plays. They don't play that many. I was just like, no, I want to see them where they're, I'd rather see them in a club where they're
Right.
headlining and we could be up close and we're not spending a fortune on the tickets. And it's not going to a band that just ultimately sucks these days in regards to
Well,
that.
even
But you know,
well, even Tesla there. I mean,
yeah,
they still sound good. God Almighty, brain fart. Can't remember the name of the lead singer, but they still sound. I mean, Extreme and Tesla. I think Extreme would blow Motley off the stage, but Tesla's the opener, and then Extreme is the second, and then Motley is the headliner. And I'm just like, and we were talking about the ticket pricing a couple days ago. I'm just like, are you kidding me? So
yeah,
yeah,
it's
it's ridiculous, and I guess get the bag, but I'm not going. I mean, it's ridiculous, and you and I we'll hit Extreme next time they come back through the. I mean, they might be in on the arena circuit at this point. Oh God, you're bringing.
yeah, the pits 11:51,
I mean, it's so stupid.
3:35.
Yeah, there's no reason anybody should be paying that much money.
And then even back here, and I want to say, why is this? Oh, I'm on StubHub. I meant to go to Ticketmaster.
No,
We
we were
go,
looking at like $1,000 seats the other day.
go tickets. There we
So
go.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
it's just crazy.
no, it's ridiculous, and if you're buying it if I just man, if you're buying a ticket to that show, I think you're kind of a sucker.
Yeah, it's I just couldn't imagine, like I said, just spending.
$1,000 to go see Motley Crue at this point in life? I mean, hell, Vince Neil's had, like, 2 strokes at this point. I mean
And and I guess that's just really what it is. It just boils down to if you're going to spend that kind of money, you better be at the top of your game.
absolutely.
You can't expect people to spend that kind of money. Okay, yeah, because here it is. Here's the Ticketmaster ones. This I'll share this now that I'm on Ticketmaster. Yeah, I mean, you look at this. I just checked off here. Here's the stage. I checked off the pit. One ticket, $1,100.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
And then you look at it. Look at all the seats that are still available,
Wow, that's a good graphic.
and not. I just. I'm sorry. I don't know who
No.
spent this kind of money to go see them.
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't make
And
any sense. I mean, I I would pay a decent amount of money to go see Extreme and Tesla, but seeing Motley for these prices, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, even here's the pits, but then you have this stage, it looks like it extends out. These are 1166. These are not resells. These are
Wow.
what you would just get. 800 right there. That's
Yeah.
1380. Oh no, wait, I gotta uncheck that one. This one, the Sinister Sideshow package is $500, over $500, and you get a wristband. Yahoo!
Oh, and
I
that's
mean,
the other thing. They're trying to repackage this as what is it? Oh, they had a tour earlier. I can't remember the name of it, but they're basically repackaging the branding of a tour they've already done, and now we have $1,100 tickets. I'm just like, what kind of go?
yeah, but I will say this. I saw this the other day, and I didn't realize this. Talking about Extreme on their sixth album, and I had to look at it and go, "Did they really?" And then when I went back and researched it, they actually did. But there's 12 songs on the sixth album. They did a video for every single song on that album because they just did the last one, and they said, "Here's the last they posted it the other day. Here's the last video, and it's this, and I like that. I like the song. Here's to the losers. It's I was like, did they really do a video for all 12 songs? Went back and I was like, well, there's that one. There's that one. Yeah, they did a video for every song on that album.
Yeah, and it's taken probably like 18 months to to get all those videos out. But yeah, when that thing came out, man, I was so excited because again, and I'll die on this hill. Nuno is the greatest living American guitarist right now. Until he dies, there won't be anybody better. But that being said, yeah, six took a long time to make. The production process and all that stuff, it took a while. But if you listen to Rise, it's one of the greatest guitar solos in the last 10 years. And I'm sorry, whatever. My opinion is my opinion, and I'll stand here on it. But anyway, but yeah, to me, if we're looking at American hard rock metal, I mean, it, I know Slash is the freaking man, and I love that dude, but Nuno is like right there, and I've seen both of them like a crap ton of times. They're two different styles of musician, but Nuno is just go back and look at the Black Sabbath thing. He's basically the musical director for that thing, and he knows every song. And excuse me, but but yeah, I just man, Molly, I feel like I'm aggravated that they're still out there taking money from people at that price. I mean, good God, you should be ashamed of yourself.
But then you have the people who actually are paying the money to go see them. The only way they're going to get the clue is if people didn't go. But if people are still willing to buy a ticket, $1,200, okay,
Well,
fine.
I'm I'm almost hoping that the tickets don't sell. And I've never been the biggest Motley fan. I love Tommy Lee because he's a phenomenal drummer. But when I'm looking at this stuff, it just makes me so mad. I'm like, you know what, people, don't go. Maybe they'll get the hint.
No,
So,
I know.
all
But
right,
but but
so we're
if you haven't checked out Extreme's sixth album, go check it out.
it's really good. I mean,
It came out a little over a couple of years ago.
it
Go
it's a really full record. There's hard stuff, there's soft stuff, but Extreme to me has always been like a man, we're just getting off the rails. Extreme to me has always been like just a very professional band
Yeah,
because if you're listening to Gary Sharon, he's always they always give their best performances. So I've always been a big fan, and I've watched them since their first tour. I think it was 89 or 90 or something. I don't even remember. But yeah, to me, like I say, Nuno is he is like I say, one of the greatest living American guitarists, and he's not even God, he's like Greek or something. I can't even remember. Anyways, all right, I'm babbling. There.
no, he is a great guitarist, and again, one of the things that I love about that album, it's you got your straight heavy songs, you got your straight rock songs, you got your your acoustic vibe songs on that album. So again, if you haven't heard that one, I would definitely recommend that. But we're
Anyway,
half hour in, and I do have a couple of things from the Striper News Desk. So
all right, let's go.
it's that time of year. If you're looking for somebody on your list, they have select items on sale right now from now until January 1st at striper.com. 30% off. Go check it out if you're looking for. There is a hoodie that looks like it's on sale, and not everything, it doesn't appear everything in their store is on sale, but select items are on sale. So go check that out. And we also, I told you this before the show started, finally got the tracking link yesterday for my items from Frontiers. So it looks like they were waiting on one thing to make the package complete before they shipped it out. So it's on its way. I'll have it soon, maybe next week. If it's still cold, I'll wear my new hoodie from The Greatest Gift of All. But this was earlier in the week that I thought was pretty cool. Michael Sweet posted this, Striper posted it as well. But let me find it. Still the Light
I saw that.
was number 7 on Christmas songs. This is a Christmas chart is based on songs ranked by total plays for the week of November 17th through the 23rd, done by Christian Music Weekly. I want to say that this is probably Christian artists specifically, but Striper came in at number 7 there. And the other item that I wanted to show, I thought this was pretty cool too, and I think you probably saw this. New releases under hard rock and metal. The Greatest Gift of All. The audio was number 1, and the vinyl was number 2 after
Yeah.
its release. So if you're wondering, if you're just tuning in and you're like, what's this Greatest Gift of All? I've never heard of that by Striper. Well, my question then becomes, where have you been? Because
You're not listening to us if you have that question.
you're not listening to us. You're not following Striper. You're not following Michael Sweet or anybody in the band. They just released a Christmas album last week that we did talk about in last week's episode, and I have been listening to it all week. I did turn it on while people were here for Thanksgiving. I was playing the Striper album in the background for a little bit while my family was here, and then I can't remember what I was going to say, but had it on, enjoyed it. So I'm still smiling from still, it's just a great album. It'll make you smile. It's got the whole holiday vibe to it and everything like that. And then on another note, Daryl, I just received this from my son. He was texting me, and I gotta share it because it just fits right in. Because you've always heard of, Shelf on the Elf, since we're talking about the Christmas season. So now it's time to do.
God,
You've heard Elf on the Shelf. Now there's Striper on a Viper.
right around the yes.
I hadn't seen that before, so I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, they're like they're Elf on the Shelf, and I think there's a Schwarzenegger on the shelf now this year. I
Is there
think
really? I
that's
hadn't seen that one yet.
yeah. I don't. There's like a few variations of Elf on the Shelf this year, and like my kids are older, so I don't have to do that crap anymore. So it's
Yeah.
all good. I don't need that anymore. But yeah. So
But
are
yeah,
we
so the
getting into
Christmas
this?
album.
Are we getting into this? Huh?
Yeah, I think we're getting into this. As you recall, at the beginning of the show, yes, we do talk about Striper on our podcast, but this week, episode 15, we are talking about Sweet and Lynch. And I remember when I first heard about the Sweet and Lynch kind of mixture, I'll just be totally transparent. It's not that I wasn't excited about it, but I never really, and even to this day, I've just never been a Dokken guy. I just never really, and it's like I turn on satellite radio and Hair Nation wants to
Air
play
Nation.
Dokken every hour, a song every hour. And it's just like, serious. And so I just never, so when I heard George Lynch and then there was Lynch Mob by George Lynch, for me, I was just like, I'm not as familiar with George Lynch as I probably should be because I just never really listened to the bands that he was in. So I didn't really have anywhere to kind of put it in my mind when I heard that they were doing the Sweet and Lynch when Michael Sweet announced, "Hey, we're doing this collaboration album." And that's just kind of where I was. Where were you when, do you recall? Because the first Sweet and Lynch album came out 10 years ago in 2015, Only to Rise. And that's the album we're going to focus on today, is Only to Rise. But what were your thoughts when you first heard the announcement about this album coming out?
I was stoked because, unlike you, I've been a Dokken fan pretty much from the jump. Mr. Scary on Back, I think it's Back for the Attack is the record. It's a instrument. George Lynch has always just been like fire and attitude and ego, and just like I don't want him talking because, like, I texted you the other day. I was like, man, this guy's ego just seems like it's, the size of Metropolis. But when I'm listening to him play guitar, I'm just like, yeah, dude, do your freaking thing, because he's an amazing guitar player. But I feel like he's always had just that fire and attitude, in Dokken and without Dokken, because I feel like him and Don had a lot of, I don't know what the lead singer disease versus lead guitar player disease. So they had a lot of that stuff going on. But like I say, I've always been a Dokken fan. But yeah, Lynch always came with the fire, dude. And this is cool. I had a really good time looking at some of this stuff. And so we're diving into the record, right?
Yeah, we're diving into the record, George Lynch, and then the other two players on this album,
Mm,
James
mm,
Lomenzo, I think is how
yes.
you pronounce it. Lomenzo was the bass, and Brian
Brian Tichy, my
Tichy was
boy.
on drums. Now, just to
Yes.
let you know, if you go out and you check out Sweet and Lynch, they've done 3 albums. James and Brian were on the first two. They were not on the third one. So,
Right.
according to what I saw, they weren't on the third one.
You are
But
correct. So
let's, yeah, jump in, man.
so does James Lomenzo ring any bells for you?
White Lion.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, I was
And
familiar.
all right, cool. He's the current bass player in Megadeth, and that is insane. From talk about a pivot from White Lion to well, and he spent a little bit in Black Label Society, which is the loudest band that you will ever hear in your life. And now he's the current bass player in Megadeth. Brian Tichy. Let me sit here for a second. So he Berkeley School of Music, Ozzy, Whitesnake, Idol, Billy Idol, Foreigner. But there's also a documentary about musicians for hire called Hired Guns. Tichy is a freaking dog, dude. He's been, if you look at his resume, I'm sure you can look the thing up on Wikipedia. He's played with just absolutely everybody. And I kind of compare him a little bit to Tommy Lee because he beats everything that's in front of him. He's a very loud player, but he's so technically proficient. I love the guy. If I could play like him, that would be amazing. But yeah, Tichy and Lomenzo as a rhythm section, give me a freaking break. That as I was listening to this yesterday and this morning and everything else, I was like, whew, they are holding this thing down, dude. It's so good and it's so solid. So you can have Lynch and Sweet do their things because the rhythm section is going to be there. And that was one of the things that I haven't listened to this thing in a while. So when I was listening to it, yesterday and this morning, I was just like, "Holy crap, dude! The the rhythm section on this record, I don't know if you could do any better." There's a yeah, it wasn't something that you had to worry about. And I was because obviously drummer listening to rhythm section. So as I was listening to all these songs, I was like, dang, Lomenzo was just doing some stuff, and Tichy will pop in. And I'm sorry, I'm gushing here, but yeah, there's you got so much experience. Like it pisses me off when like some of these super like my first note was this is kind of a super group, and they're never going to go out and play any shows. And
Yeah.
I hate that. I think we've talked about this before. It's like bands like, well, hell, George Lynch is in KXM. Are they going to go do a tour or a show or anything? Probably not. And same thing here. It's just, these little niche super groups because they put out some really good songs, but you're never gonna see them live, and that I don't know. It annoys me. Even Sweet and Lynch, KXM, there's a handful of bands that are like that. It's like you're just never gonna see them. They're gonna make a couple of records and they're not gonna go tour, which sucks, especially when you have a lineup like this. So anyway, that's that's my rant on the personnel.
Yeah, I will say this, and when I was listening to this again, I was listening to just with it with just a lot of different ears as I was going through it. And one of the things that I really picked up on was, of course, this is called Sweet and Lynch. Those are the two primary people, but the bass playing on this album, like you said,
Mhm.
I'll take a word that you've used in a previous episode. Man, it was thick. I mean, just listening to it and the runs that he would do
Yep.
on different tracks and different songs, I was just like, this entire group, like you said, I can't disagree with you that you could call this group a super group. And I know that Michael has wanted to do a tour with these guys. Like, hey, if we're going to be putting out albums, we need to be going on the road. It's just, I think, with all the other projects both him and George Lynch have going on, it's hard to come together with a date. And I'm assuming that, but the, like you said, just the percussion part of this album. I mean, here you're supposed to have Michael Sweet with the vocals, George Lynch with the guitar, but with James and Brian on the bass and the drums, they were just as good as the two who made this up. And then I also wondered too dynamically how this was going to work. And I've because I've heard different interviews since this first album came out. And it's you have Michael Sweet, who is, as we all know, fessing Christian. His faith is very much in the album, all the Striper albums, his solo albums, and stuff like that. Then you have George Lynch, who has stated that he's an atheist or searching or whatever it is. And it was like, how is the dynamic? Not that I was, and I'm not sitting there saying he shouldn't have done it. How can you be working with an atheist? I don't get it. Well, and if you work for a corporate world, how do you go to work with atheists all day long? So let's not even go down that road and be judgmental on it. But it's I just wondered how that dynamic would work. But when you hear, for me, when you hear the lyrics and you still hear some themes of Michael Sweet's faith in it. But I think with these songs that he can go in a little bit of a different direction, especially when it's a quote love song. Because as I was sitting there listening to this week, I go, okay, you had the Striper albums and you have people that have the expectations of, well, this is what a Striper album should sound like, which is fine. Then you have the Michael Sweet albums, which he still puts a lot of his faith into the Michael Sweet solo albums. So now people probably have the expectation Michael Sweet should be singing about faith in every single song. So now you had this dynamic. I was like, this is going to be interesting to hear lyrically how he goes about doing this album. And as I went back and I was listening to the lyrics and listening to it, I was just like going, wow, I love some of this. I love this song lyrically. I think vocally he is spot on with these songs. I think it is, I hate it when people just hear the name Michael Sweet and they just go down a negative road just because of whatever they think of Striper and they don't give him a chance. And even some of it's fine. If you don't like Striper, don't hate everything Michael Sweet does because this album is an incredible album. That's the one we're talking about today is Only to Rise. But the two, like you just said, the whole lineup of it, they just all excelled on this album. It's just like, wow. And this is a band I would want to see on tour. This is a band I would want to go see.
No, you have a lineup of pros. There's no denying if that band were to go on tour, yeah, I'm buying a ticket. But it is funky that Lynch is I was listening, I think I texted you about this, but I was listening to a few older interviews and he's an atheist. And that's cool that the dude that runs Frontier thought it might be a good idea for them to
Yeah.
get together and do something.
Yeah, because I saw that. I saw that in a couple of different places. This wasn't George Lynch calling Michael Sweet or Michael Sweet calling George Lynch. This was the label Frontier saying, "Hey,
Right.
I think you
So,
two should
which
do an
is
album together."
yeah, which is funky, and from what I was reading earlier, Lynch was like, "Well, Mike's just a nice guy, so I can work with him, and he can write whatever." Because Lynch wasn't, he didn't have a lot of input into the lyrics
Right.
on a lot of this, and so it was basically Mike doing Mike, but it wasn't like we talking about some of the Stryper records before. It's like message, message, message. This is a positive record, but it's not the same stuff we're used to listening to with Stryper, where it's like a full on, hey, this is what our message is as a band in Stryper. It was just, I thought it was like a really positive, not necessarily all Christian, but really positive. There's a couple of songs on it, and it's not this. It doesn't come with the same weight that you would have with a Stryper record. So stuff like, okay, great.
I'm just playing stuff now.
No, first of all, that riff, I love that opening riff. There were a couple songs on here that I was just like, they're not Stryper songs, but they still have a very positive background. In September, when I was listening to some of that, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this song. And
Yeah.
there are a couple songs that I had forgotten about, and some of the lyrics on here. And I was even talking about it with my wife this morning. There's some lyrics in here that are pretty heavy. September, I mean, I love this song, but as I was going through some of the songs lyrically, it's like, dang, there's some heavy stuff in here. And it's like some of the lyrics in here were just like, all right, man, it's the 9/11 song, and then the Hero Zero.
Yeah, that Hero to Zero, or that Hero Zero song, I love. Yeah, Hero Zero. It's not Hero 2 0, it's Hero Zero. I love that song.
No, it burn you worse than Nero. I was like, dang, bro.
I know. Well, you go back to the creativity process on this album, and basically what I saw when I was doing the research this week is that George Lynch would, I had it right here, yeah, he would just kind of write some kind of musical riff somewhere between 60 and 90 seconds, give it to Michael, with song ideas, and then Michael does what Michael does. He takes it, he arranges it, writes the melodies, writes the lyrics, and then produces the album. So
yeah, it's pretty wild.
But you listen to this album, and I think the thing when I first heard this album years ago was like, I love this because it's not Stryper. It's something that, like you said, it still produced still a positive record. It didn't go dark. It didn't do those types of things because, I don't think that's something that Michael would do on an album. But I think he could get into it a little bit more emotionally or a little bit more lyrically when it comes to songs about, I don't know if you want to say love or about your spouse or, whatever. I think it could just go in a different direction lyrically than what he normally would do on a Stryper album. And then also too, not just, we've talked about the percussion, we talked about the guitar, the vocals a little bit, but for me, the background vocals, the harmonies on this album, they were just, and one of the ones that stood out to me on this, and here I go, here goes the ballad guy, I know, here comes the ballad guy, but Me Without You, those lyrics on that album are almost haunting the way when they get into the verse, it's almost like, the chorus, it's like, wow, that sounds so good when you put this song together the way that it is. And I just love how this song just opens up. It's the one I'm playing right now. But this, I'm going to say, yes, I'll admit, if there is a skipper on an album I don't like, but I listened to this probably about 5 times this week. And every time I listen to it, yeah, right here, what do we do? I'm just like, wow, that just, I love that, how they just come in and just the flow of that. But to me, there's not a skipper on this album. I tried to make a skipper because I don't always want to sound like you, like not in a bad way. Don't take that wrong. I don't want to sound like I'm always fanboying on Michael Sweet, but I'm listening to this album this week going, I don't have a skipper on this album. Yes, there are songs that I like more than I do than others on this album, because I think that's going to be the case on any album. Yeah, I like this one more than that one, but there was none on here that I was like, yeah, I don't like this one, I'm going to skip it, or like this one, I'm going to skip it, or whatever. But I just love this song. Just the way this is composed, it's put together. It's just one of my favorites. Go ahead.
This is going to shock you. This is my favorite song on the record.
Is it really?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it ranks up there with me.
Well, because when I was going through the lyrics, it's like, there's no me without you. It's like trying to say that there's no sky without blue. I was like, dude, that's a great line. And I was quoting it to my wife this morning. She was like, yeah, that's a solid line. But to me, it sounds like Alone Again, which is a Dawkins song, which, not a knock. I love Alone Again, but you can tell it's a George Lynch. There's some influence there, because the riff and the solo, they do sound like Alone Again. But hey, it's cool. I love this song. This one and September are my two favorite songs on this record. Just because September, man, that's a heavy freaking song. Because we're talking about 9/11 and walking through the rubble and the debris and all that. It's a heavy song. So yeah, Me Without You, it's a song. And I usually that's not my jam, but for whatever reason, it hits me in the right spot. And yeah, those are my two favorite songs on this record. But yeah, Here Zero is probably the third. But there's some solid writing on this record. It's like, I haven't listened to it for a minute, so the last couple days, obviously for the pod doing homework, but there's some really solid lyrics on this thing. So it's I really enjoyed, and the closer on this thing,
yeah, which is the title track.
Yeah, we don't have to get there yet, but yeah, it's a very fully spec'd out record. I mean, I feel like they had all their stuff together when they went in and did this. So and it's, to me, it was funky, because when I was like, Michael Sweet and George Lynch, really? But they seem to have a really good chemistry, and it was funky because I knew Lynch, not a religious guy, but he just always said that Mike was a nice guy, and they got along, and it's just weird's not the right word, but it
worked.
It absolutely worked.
And more than worked is if you could say it more than worked. But going back to the Me Without You, I mean, again, it's one of those songs that I heard, and it's one of my favorites off the album. It's heartfelt, it's emotional, and it's just got those lyrics that are just kind of haunting to listen to them, in my opinion, when it comes out. But the other thing that I picked up on this album, and again, going back to, and I expected this kind of when I first listened to it, that it wasn't going to be all metal, it wasn't going to be all rock, there was going to be a flow of those types of things. And if I recall correctly, I read where they really wanted to put together an album that was very reflective of 70s, 80s type music. And one of the things that I did pick up on was there were some tracks that had kind of a bluesy vibe to them as well. Yes. And I really liked that element that was put into the album.
Well, yeah, that's a great point, because like I was saying earlier, Lynch usually just brings the freaking fire and intensity, and this isn't a Dawkins record, so it does have like a lot of bluesy undertones that I wasn't used to. And the other thing that I'll say is, like, like I say, some Me Without You sounds like a Dawkins song, but there are also some Striper-ish undertones, and also some Dawkins undertones. So I was like, well,
I don't think you're going to get away from that, though, because
no, of course not.
If somebody expects it not to have any of those undertones, I think you're going to be missing it, because Michael Sweet is Michael Sweet. Anything he's right, there's going to be some kind of undertone to it, because that's who he is. It's not going to be completely 100% different unless he decided to do,
a
K-pop album.
No, well, no, it was cool though, just because I'm used to listening when I listen to George Lynch, like one of my favorite songs ever is Mr. Scary, and it's him just shredding everything. And we didn't have that. We didn't have that fire and that aggression with George Lynch, like you were saying. There was more bluesy undertones, and
Mhm.
Mike was doing Mike things, and yeah, it was really a different flavor, which I have no problem with because they seem to have like a really good chemistry.
Yeah, it's the way that this album came together, and going back to having the bass player in James and then having the drummer in Brian, it just came together really well. Now, you said that September and Me Without You were your two favorites. I had a hard time probably pulling out my next favorite or one of my other favorites, but one that I really did like was the Strength in Numbers
It's
song.
it's got a I had it in my notes actually. There's a funky little thing in here that sounds kind of like Zeppelin on the keyboard. It feels a little like Kashmir, which I don't know. There's a little bridge or something somewhere, but I wrote it down, so obviously I thought that was the thing.
You know what's funny is I actually read what you just said earlier this week on this. It said this particular song says being dominated by keyboards and guitars, trading off for the main riff, giving it a rainbow or Led Zeppelin Cashmere feel.
I could see Rainbow also. That's fun. That's why. Well, that's what I felt this morning because I did all my notes this morning. But yeah, there's heavy keys in this, and what sucks is I couldn't find who's playing keyboards. So because when you're looking at it, it only has Sweet, Lynch, Tichy, and Lomenzo. So I'm like, well, who's playing keyboards? I don't know. I couldn't find that information, so that was kind of lame. But yeah, it did give me a Cashmere vibe for sure. And I could see the rainbow stuff shirt. Yeah, Ronnie James Dio. Yeah, that was always kind of a flavor anyway. So all right.
But I like this one. But going back to Hero Zero was another one that I liked because this is the one where I'm listening to it here at the beginning and throughout the song. Going back to Lomenzo, this is one of the songs where the bass just really stood out and just really, and I hear that and I'm like, and sometimes I don't hear that in the production of other elements of music. Sometimes I have a hard time picking up the bass in a song or an album or whatever it might be. But that's the thing I loved about this album is because I felt like the elements of all the music came through very well.
Well, that speaks to the production. And yeah, when I was listening to it, so I have a really nice pair of Bose like cans. So I was listening to that like before anybody got up this morning. But some of the bass runs on some of these songs are freaking stupid. I mean, he's not overplaying, but he's definitely he's in the pocket, man. It's with him and Tichy, I was just like, golly, dude. When can I go see these guys? Because I've seen Tichy a couple times. I mean, he's been in every Whitesnake, Foreigner, Ozzy, whatever. I've seen him before, but it's just, I really did feel on the really loud re-listen that the rhythm section, man, they were holding this thing down. It's a really good performance by both of those dudes. So I always listen for the bass lines, but as I was listening to this, I was like, dang, he's just running, and he's running the whole time. I mean, he's just even, again, I won't say he's overplaying, but that right there.
I know that's when I was like picking it up on the song when it was in the chorus part of it. I was just like, that. For me, my reaction to it was, that's amazing. I didn't think it was overplaying. Not that you were saying that it was overplaying, but some people might. But for me, that is one of the things that I just loved. I heard the bass so well in this album.
Yeah, the bass is really melodic, I think is the word. Because, yeah, he wasn't trying to, like, show off or anything like that. He was he was playing in the context of whatever song he was in. And so, and same thing with Lynch. I mean, he wasn't the Doc and George Lynch. He was in this certain project playing with these certain people, and he wasn't trying to be his nickname is Mr. Scary. So he wasn't that guy. He was just playing within the context of the song, which absolutely appreciated, because it did bring him down a little bit. He wasn't trying to be like the Shredder guy. He was just playing in the context of the songs. I really appreciated as a whole what this band was doing, because they all seemed to know their role, and nobody was trying to be like, a freaking rock star.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there. Everybody knew what they were supposed to be doing on the album, but they checked in a sense. It seems like, just listening to this album and considering that they've made 2 more albums after this, that they checked their egos at the door and said,
Yeah.
let's just go in and make an incredible album. Let's just make some incredible music together. And I feel like and it definitely came through on this album. Now, I know we're not talking about it, but one of my other favorite Sweet and Lynch songs is actually on the next album, which we'll talk about when we talk about
5 more
album
episodes.
2 down the road. But what did you think? Let me ask you this, because I know you're not normally a ballad guy. What did you think about the other kind of ballad on this song? Kind of has like a somewhat ballad vibe to it, Love Stays.
Dude, I don't like we said earlier, I don't have any skippers on this record. I like them all. There's definitely a couple, God, I don't want to get sappy. There's definitely a couple of love songs on this record there.
Oh yeah.
That's, to me, it's, when I was listening to it this morning, I was alone and I was just thinking about stuff, but there's a couple songs on here where I was kind of like, man, I love a decent love song, because I'm kind of sappy that way. So, but no, I like this song a lot. I wish they'd have given more, and I was just looking at Wikipedia, so who cares? It's probably wrong anyway. But I was like, who's singing backup on some of these things? Because there's like big vocals on some of these songs, and I'm like, okay, I know George Lynch isn't a singer, so who's singing backup on this? And I was like looking at Wikipedia and looking at personnel, and I was like, well, I know Tichy sings a little bit, and maybe Lomenzo, probably not. But some of these songs sound so big, and I was just like, it was bugging me, because I didn't know who was filling that space, because it's not just Mike.
Yeah, it's when I sit there, and I'm like you, and that's why I like ballads for the most part, because I do like the love songs. I love the emotions that songs can draw up and have with people. I typically feel like that those types of songs are ones, we talk about it a lot, that just make us happy, that we can smile to, that we can, not today when it's 35 degrees outside, but when it's a nice day, roll the windows down and just go cruising down the highway with it. But I think too, and this, I'm trying to think how to say this without coming across in a different way, but I think with this album, yes, there were probably expectations in a sense, meaning there were expectations because what Michael Sweet could bring. There were expectations because what George Lynch could bring. But there was no expectation on this album about what the two of them would bring together in a sense. So I feel like maybe they weren't living with this, well, I've got to make sure I get this into it, or get this sound into it, or do that into it. It was like, this was a new path that both of them could explore, that they couldn't have explored, that they hadn't explored before. And what ended up happening was, like we've already said, it just worked phenomenally. It just came together perfectly.
Well, from all the stuff that I've read and listened to, I feel like they both kind of just came into it and like, let's just get creative. It's not you you wouldn't form this band. I mean, Lynch, Lynch and Sweet. It makes no sense if you know anything about them, like a little bit. And I've never talked to either one of these dudes, but I do know how Lynch thinks about a few things, and obviously we know how Mike thinks about things. But yeah, it's kind of a funky, unholy alliance, but but they seem to find some kind of chemistry, which is that's really cool when you can pull that off. So, and they're two of my favorite musicians. So I'm like, and other part too is like, I don't, I know Mike was doing the production and the lyrics, but he didn't have to do a ton of the heavy lifting guitar wise
Yeah.
because George Lynch
Yeah.
is in your
George
corner.
Lynch. Yeah. You had George
So
Lynch in there.
it might have been a little, I won't say easier, but I will say easier creative process for everybody. Cause again, what I've read with Lynch is like, I'm just writing the music, man. Mike's writing the lyrics, and we'll figure it out. And they did figure it out. So it it it's I feel like it was a different creative process for probably both of them because you're not having to work as hard on certain things.
Right.
So yeah. Yeah, it's funky when you get, like, little side projects and you're working with people that you hadn't worked with before. I mean, that's I'm sure that's fun, but you still and I know Lynch, once he gets his hands on a project, he is gonna grab that thing and, do all he can do with it. 'Cause if you if you have any history of the Dawkins stories, I think I don't want to talk ish on this guy. I have heard stories where he's a little difficult to work with, but on this particular project, it seems like the chemistry was there, and it seemed like they obviously it came across great because I don't have any skippers on this record, so maybe just him and Mike just got along because he always said in all the interviews that I've read, he's like, yeah, Mike's just a nice guy, and which I would we know Mike's a nice guy.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you talk about Michael being a nice guy. I mean, I've met him a couple of times at meet and greets, and it's like he really just takes the time. I know there's 40, 50 other people in there, so he can't take 20 minutes with you, but one time I was telling him something and he just kind of paused for a moment and just listened to me and I was just like and he asked me a couple of questions about it and it was kind of cool just having that moment, being able to share what the Striper discography had done for me over the years and stuff like that. And so yeah, he's just a nice guy and it's very open, transparent. I mean, just go on social media and he'll tell you, I just give you my thoughts. I'll tell you what I think. And the interesting thing too, going back to what you were saying about him not necessarily doing the record playing, if you look at the first video, I think it was the first one that was released. It was The Wish.
Mhm.
That's the first song because September is more of a lyric video where The Wish is an actual video.
Right, the wishes of yeah.
And that one, I'm trying to I watched it a couple of times this week, and I'm trying to think. I don't recall seeing him hold a guitar in that album, in that video. Now,
Right.
I know in one of the songs in the next album, he's holding a guitar in the video, but in this particular one, he wasn't. And I'm like, is that the first time I've probably seen him in a video without holding a
Right.
guitar? With the exception of Honestly. And but because with Stryper, it's always him and Oz, it's either him or Oz or they're doing a duo riff together, but yeah, it's just the way that this whole album came about, and like you, I would be buying tickets the day they went on sale because I would be lining up to go see this particular lineup.
Well, yeah, and it's I mean, like I say, it's a funky lineup. I mean, Mike would probably not have to hold a guitar, which is weird because but hey, there's George Lynch over here doing the thing. So yeah, I I don't know how much of a pain in the butt it is to make a Striper record. I just think this might have been like a little bit less stressful because you got guys holding this whole thing down, and so I don't know. I mean, and maybe that's why it came out so good. You got pros all over the place. So just write your lyrics and sing your song, and obviously Mike's gonna have insane vocals, and the lyrics are on all these songs are really good, and there's no skippers like you were saying before. But it's interesting. One of the things that I'm pulled out was like when I was looking at some stuff online, there was a lot of feedback from like CCM and like a lot of the Christian outlets. And I'm like, were we trying to market this as it's not a Christian record. It's positive. I mean, there's nothing negative, but it's like there was nothing like overtly talking about God, but like I saw like multiple reviews of this record from Christian media outlets. And I'm like, do y'all really? I don't know. And I'm not talking negative, but I was like, I don't think you guys need to get involved here unless you just want to create a review on this record, which is cool. But yeah, it was never anything like overtly Christian about this record. But the lyrics were, very positive. But it was funky to me to go on and see a lot of the reviews, and most of them were from Christian media outlets.
Yeah, and this album, I would agree, it wasn't marketed as well. I don't even want to say marketed as a Christian album or whatever, but it wasn't marketed to like, hey, Michael Sweet's doing another album and let's go to the Christian market, because that's never been his thing that he's wanted to do in the first place. It's like, you got enough. We're a rock band who are Christians that write music from our faith and we put them into the song. And with that being said, the Christian industry probably just picked up Michael Sweet doing something. Let's see what's going on. Let me tell you what it's all about, because I know our listeners will know this. We're not strictly, there are some people that are just strictly, I'm going to listen to Christian music and not listen to anything else. You and I, we don't fall into that. We're listening to all types of music, and yeah, you got it above you. And so with that being said, I think they were just saying, hey, here's Michael Sweet doing something. And the thing is, from most of what I read, 9 out of 10 stars, 4 out of 5 stars. Most of it was highly rated. And it goes, I'm surprised. Personally, I'm like, what did you hear that didn't make it 5 out of 5 stars or 10 out of 10? I saw one person do 3.5 out of 5. And I'm like,
that was our boy Jay that we quoted last week. It was 3.5. I was like, what?
And I'm like, where did you find this not to be higher? And again, this for me I'm not saying it should be 5 out of 5 or 10 out of 10 because we're Michael Sweet, we're Stryper fans. This is a good album. It's a great album. Yeah,
that's the thing. And I think we're doing a Stryper podcast, but if you listen to this just as a hard rock record, or it's not even metal.
Yeah.
But they're like we said, there's no bad writing on this record, and the song structure and everything. All the components are there, and you have a just crazy lineup. So, and I love this, but yeah, it's like you would have to get pretty bad to make a bad record with this lineup of people that you have on. Mike writing vocals and singing. Okay, cool. George Lynch on guitar. Okay, cool. And then you have the rhythm section, Lomenzo and Tichy, and I'm just like, all right, you don't really need anything else. It's like, I know what you guys can do, and they did it. So, yeah, to me, this thing was just like, I hadn't listened to it in a long time until the last couple of days, but I was like, man, my expectations, okay, I'm looking at the lineup. All right, cool. My expectations are going to be pretty high, and they met them. So it's creatively, it's what I would expect from these four guys. So
yeah, no, I hear you with that, and it's going back into what I said earlier too. This wasn't a Stryper album. It wasn't a Michael Sweet album. It was something to where probably all four of them kind of felt like, hey, let's venture out and do something different. Because I'm trying to remember, because we know that Michael Sweet has been part of Sunbomb, iconic, but this was the first, I guess you could say, band that he was involved with outside of Striper and doing solo stuff. Am I forgetting something? Did he do something? Oh, Boston. He was with Boston before this, but when he was with Boston, they didn't put out any new material. So
no, you're correct. Outside of Striper and his solo stuff, I mean, you can't really count Boston because they're not putting out anything new. This was kind of the first branch out into like totally original material. So yeah. we got what we got, which is awesome. So can I give you the story about George Lynch and Ozzy?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this has to be the worst rock story ever. So Lynch auditioned for Ozzy in '79. The audition to he lost the job to Randy Rhoads.
Oh wow!
So then Randy dies, and he goes back in for a second audition for Ozzy, and they literally offered him the job. And so I don't know if you remember Jakey Lee, who's on the before it was before Zach, but after Randy. Anyway, so he had the job, and then they had auditioned Jakey Lee as another guitar player, and Sharon told Lynch that his hair was too short, and he got fired.
Seriously?
Yep. So that's why Jakey Lee was the guitar player for Ozzy for that little short amount of time. But
I never heard that story. That's crazy. That is crazy. Are we in a world of DEI back in the 1980s with George Lynch? Your hair's not long enough. Even though you're the best guitar player, because you don't line up with long hair, you're out.
What year was that? Probably
it had to be 82 or 83.
Yeah, it was still in the 80s. You had to have long hair, man.
So Ozzy, it's all Ozzy's fault. He's the one who started
No,
DEI.
it's Sharon's fault.
I'm kidding.
Sharon causes all the problems. But
oh my god, I know. I had never heard that story.
Yeah, you get fired from Ozzy's band twice. I don't even know though. I mean, I can definitely see Lynch with we're talking about Rudy Sarzo. He was playing drums with them at that point. I can't remember. But anyway, I could see Lynch in Ozzy's band, but yeah, I just thought it was really funny because the two takeaways: his hair's too short and his guitar is really ugly. She said it looked like a booger because he had this green. Gosh, I think it was a Jackson, but yeah, she was just like, yeah, hair too short, ugly guitar, and I'm like, dude, did you listen to what he was playing? Because I totally could see it. But yeah, he lost the Ozzy gig twice.
That's crazy.
I don't know who else could say that.
Wow. I think I'm just still taken aback that he was fired because he had short hair. Because I mean, you listen to him play.
Well, he had that funky spike, but it was like his hair was like probably wasn't even to his collar. So yeah, at that point in time, technically he had short hair. So yeah, Sharon's like, nah. I mean, if you look at Jake, I mean, his hair it looked like Michael Sweet in '82. He had all the hair, and he was a phenomenal guitar player. But anyway, yeah, I don't know who could say that they lost the Ozzy gig twice.
But on the Sweet and Lynch, not Sweat and Lynch, Sweet and Lynch, with any closing thoughts on this first album from Sweet and Lynch? Anything that you hadn't touched on yet?
Not really. Like I say, I hadn't listened to it for a minute until the last couple days, but this thing is solid, dude. I mean, I don't really have any complaints. I mean, especially with, I mean, like I say, I'm always listening to the rhythm section. So, I mean, Lomenzo and Tichy, I was just like, yes, give me more of that. So, and I didn't realize when I picked it up the last week or so, I didn't realize Lomenzo was the bass player on this record. I knew Tichy was the drummer, but yeah, it was just I was picking up on the underlying rhythm section once I had looked and say, okay, who's the personnel on this record? And once I knew that, I was like, okay, well, my bar just got raised a little bit because I know what you guys can do. It was cool because I mean, like I say, it wasn't a Striper record, it wasn't a Dokken record. It
Right.
was just a solid hard rock record with some really veteran musicians, and you don't see that a lot of times. And there was no I still want to know who was singing backups on a couple of these songs, but no, to me it was super solid, and I have a long history with everybody that's playing on this record, which was cool. But yeah, and there were no skippers for me. So usually side projects there can be a couple of clunkers. There's not any on this one.
No, I agree with that. There's no clunkers as I think about this album and I go back and listen to when I went back and listened to it this week, I just always kind of laugh when sometimes people will say that rock is dead, it's not alive. And I would say if you feel that way, then you haven't heard this album. Because this to me is just a straight rock album that's going to give you a mix of a couple of slower tunes on there. But I think going back with this album vocally, guitar, bass, drums. I was blown away the first time I heard this album. It just sounded so good. And like you said, it wasn't a striper, it wasn't a Dokken, it was a group this group of four incredible musicians who came together and put together an incredible album.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. I don't I don't know if I have much more to add to that. But it is like I say, it is funky because a lot of times when you're doing side stuff, it's sometimes you don't know who you're working with or whatever, and just the chemistry of the four to me, it was really nice and unexpected on the first record of a side project. I'm not sure how much rehearsal they did, but I mean, like I say, you're dealing with a bunch of pros, so I'm I'm not surprised, I guess. But yeah, man, front to back, this thing is solid. I love listening. I think I've listened to it like 5, 6 times at this point. And the closer, the title track, I was like, "Oh my word. Okay, here's Tichy is just he's on fire." So, I really enjoyed that, and, like I say, I'm a big Tichy fan anyway. I mean, the guy went to Berklee School of Music, so he should be awesome, and he is. So, but yeah, yeah, I had a really good time listening to this, and it's like I say, it's just a different flavor for Mike and George Lynch. So, yeah, I was fully satisfied with this whole record, and I didn't skip a thing, and I like the ballads.
Yeah. The ballads on this, they were very different from what you would hear, in my opinion, on a typical Striper ballads. I
And we're
really
talking album.
enjoyed, yeah, I really enjoyed this album. And from front to back, like you said, you can't beat it. If you're wondering, if you forgot, title track, first album by Sweet and Lynch, Only to Rise, 12 songs, all of them incredible.
43
And if you
minutes.
haven't, how long?
43 minutes.
43 minutes. So if you haven't heard it, you haven't listened to it, go pick it up today. Or I forgot in the world of Spotify and Apple Music, go find it and stream it today. Actually, go pick it up, buy it,
Yeah, goodbye.
support them. Let's get another Sweet and Lynch album because it's done so well. So, but with that being said, I think we're good for another episode. This was episode 15. To hell with the podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, give us feedback. And next week, I think we're going to cover the covering.
I'm stoked about this one, man.
So be on the lookout. That's what we've got coming next week. We're going to dive into the covering by Striper. Came out early, I think 2013, I
Yeah,
think is when it came out.
I
I'd
think you're
have to
right.
go look at the dates, but we've got that coming next week. Again, thank you for listening, and any comments, drop them, let us know. And as always, keep it loud, keep it honest, and keep the fire burning. I'm Tim. I'm with Daryl, and we'll see you next week.
Love you guys.